Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Whitman, helping you go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. We really appreciate you sharing the show, rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Thanks to all of you. We have been in the top 100 shows in the entire country under education on Apple Podcasts, and we keep growing and growing because of you. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. And now I'm going to introduce my guest. Welcome to the studio, KIm Holland.
Hey, welcome. Nice to see you. I love seeing you on video conference, even though we're usually face to face. So this is a good one.
Yes, KIm has been a dear friend of mine. I met KIm in the early 90s where we were in a direct sales company together and we were working together in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm from. And she was there to build a sales team and we just bonded. We were working together, going out dancing together, and we've stayed in touch all these years. I mean, I don't even know how many years we've known each other now, but at least probably close to 30 years.
Yeah. Well, I actually remember the very first time we met. You may or may not. It was at one of our trainings, and it was the executive directors. And Phil had recommended that we go have lunch with someone we don't know. And I remember it as clear as day. It was Indianapolis at the Indianapolis training. I think I was still in Ohio or Michigan, one of those places. Anyway, you had platinum blonde hair, and I recognized you from when you got your award. Remember, you were like number one, and you like outbeat like all the $100,000 a month money earners in that company. And I was like, oh, I want to sit down with this girl. I remember her. And you were like, chill, you were super nice. And then when I went to Cincinnati, Len, remember him? Len from Minneapolis.
That's Lynn
He had
Chu.
said, yeah, Rebecca Whitman is going to be there. And I remembered you because we just had lunch. I don't know if it was like a couple of weeks or months. And then there you were in the office. But then I think you had just gone back to brunette. So
Yes.
you were blonde and then brunette. So yeah, it was like 95, 96. So yeah, we're going on 30 years. Cray.
It is crazy. Well, since I've met you, you have made it a passion. And let me tell my audience about your background. She has been in direct sales, marketing, business, financial planning for almost 30 years now. KIm is passionate about helping individuals, families, business owners achieve clarity, confidence, and long-term success when it comes to money. And we all know that money is the seventh pillar of abundance. So I thought it'd be so great for us to have a deep dive conversation around money. KIm specializes in everything from retirement planning, business strategy, to insurance investments and legacy building. What I really love about KIm is she makes finances approachable and understandable. She has no fancy jargon, just real strategies to help people get wealthy. And she works with clients across 29 states, and she has taught countless workshops, coaching programs, all around money and empowering people to take control over their legacy, their retirement, and their financial journey. And I trust her so much that I even sent my husband and my sister to her as a client. So if I'm sending family members to this person, obviously I trust her very much. And I know she's an expert in this area. So KIm, you have an incredible story. You met someone from the Farmers Only website. You went to the middle of the country, I don't know, Minnesota, and you thought you were going to be a farmer's wife, but God, fate, the universe had different plans. So why don't you share with our audience how you went from high heels to tractor wheels, back to high heels, and share a little of your journey. I mean, you went from a farmer's wife not that long ago to
Mhm.
now a seven-figure money earner. So I think this is a very interesting story. Why don't we start here?
Okay. Well, just a quick. After we left that direct sales company, again, you had recommended that we sell cars. And I love that because I love cars anyway with my family background. And then I actually got to Florida because once again, you had a job opportunity. And so we traveled the country together. And then unfortunately, because of the dot bomb, we like to call it the .com and the dot bomb, that recession that closed. So I kind of jumped around corporate America. And then again, thanks to you and a mutual friend, Valerie, introduced me to a man who was like a Tony Robbins, like guru person. And that business venture was going good. Office Depot had just downsized, and I actually jumped the gun because I saw it coming. Things were going great. Then the 2008 recession hit. And what most people don't realize is the stock market collapsed first, but then it was like the next 3 years is when the economy just couldn't get any traction. Yeah. So after about 2.5 years, I lost my beautiful condo, like minutes from the beach in downtown, super funky Delray Beach, pretty much bankrupt, wound up like renting rooms from friends after a failed relationship, before the farmer. And that is actually when I went into a 12-step program that I figured there are some things that are definitely missing, not just financially, but there were just some mishaps, with my personal life as well. And you actually had been encouraging me to get involved in the 12-step. I remember like since 04, 05, or 06, it was that long. So it wasn't until 2011 where I finally saw that things were like not going well. And for $200 a month, I think I was living in a lady's house. Like it was totally humiliating. All my stuff was in storage. I had garage sales. I hawked my furniture just to make my Mercedes-Benz payment. It almost got repossessed. And so at any rate, in doing that, also because I needed the church to lend me money to pay for my storage bill, that's when they said, well, we need your budget. You need to take this finance class. So they actually taught me, it was called Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps. It was a mini course at my church. It was pretty cool. Talked about having $1,000 emergency fund. And they literally said, sell everything that the kids think they're next. And so I literally hawked and let go of like everything I didn't need. And then I, in all fairness, discovered that I really wanted to be the happy homemaker, and I wanted my modern day Charles Ingalls. And, needless to say, we looked at this website because I talked to some friends about, the kind of rugged men and the real men. And, that was sort of what we were talking about. And they recommended me to that rural site. And, I thought I did a great job now that I was in recovery, and now that I risk assessed everything, and now that I felt like I was super healthy. And what I didn't realize, although there was definitely some affection, it was kind of like one extreme to another. So it was almost like all business. And when I didn't realize it was all business, like I really
it became like it went from relational to transactional.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. And it was fine because I was like all excited, all the people in the Midwest, like they're all like what we call Proverbs 31 women. Like my hairdresser was going to nursing school. She was pregnant with baby number 2. She had an event planning business, and she was a hairdresser, and she helped her husband ranch. So like all the women out there were like happy homemaker business women, like doing 2 and 3 side hustles, like you talk about in your stuff about the multiple streams of income. So the fact that I was a farmer's wife, and then what happened was I was taking classes from my church and just having a great time. And then like the bomb was dropped on me. It was very strange that as hard as I was working, I mean, you have to understand, I learned how to drive tractor.
Milk a cow.
I didn't milk any animals. That was just so you know.
That was the line. That was the boundary.
That was the boundary. I
pickling vegetables for the winter and canning, and
literally learned how to grow a garden, can food. Yep. like literally drive, like we are talking now. They always say, do you have a red or a green tractor? So any of you that live out in the country know green is John Deere and red is Case. And so that's kind of their big rival, almost like Mercedes, BMW. Like that's how they roll in rural America. Is it a red or green tractor, or blue is a Holland? But at any rate, and then what wound up happening was he said that I needed to do more that for him to be able to support me going to my church classes. And I was like, well, you make $500,000 a year. So if the farm can't afford $100 a month in gas, maybe we need to take a look at how the farm operation is going, because something's not right here. And so I meant it in truth and love. But in the end, sure enough, I started to dig out what I was doing with that other company and saw he made a lot of money, but he had a lot of debt and he paid a lot of income taxes. And so I proceeded to, I thought, being a helpmate and like negotiating with the tax people, negotiating with the bank. And typically most men would be like, high five, honey, you saved us, $43,000 in taxes. And so I was trying to do it so I could justify, staying home and not,
he was what? He was insulted?
Well, what I learned from my actually attachment theory work, because I thought, 12-step, I'm not codependent, like I'm healthy. He's a workaholic. So I'm trying to keep my side of the street clean and be joyous and be in my own and do my own thing. Well, later, as in literally 6 months ago, he's what we would know as a dismissive avoidant. And so, like you said, the big book Attached, which I had no idea that was going viral, was actually happening in 2015 when the walls came crumbling down. So it really was by the grace of God that, well, because I got all of our finances in order and I learned, okay, if I could save on taxes and I could help get us out of debt and I could do all these wonderful things, but he was not really receptive and still insisted that I had to do other things outside the farm. And that's when it dawned on me, well, how many other farmers and ranchers that are hardworking, good people that I could help. So it literally just started to be some little part-time gig.
You took something that
I could just do like this.
Well, you took something that caused you pain because you were like looking at his finances, looking at where he could save more and how he could be making more money. And then that caused like strife in your marriage because he felt like distrusting or like you were infringing on his privacy, and you used that to help all the people in the area. And that is how your financial planning business took off, helping local farmers.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's actually the number 2 or 3 podcasts of Ramsey Solutions. And I actually called there and said, how do I be one of your people? And they said, well, you can't be one of our people because you'd have to move to Tennessee, but you could be a financial advisor and be one of our affiliate. Well, what do you have to do to have that? Well, I had to go back to school. So at 51 years old, I had to suck it up, buttercup, and learn all these new skills. And I was resentful a little bit, but I was also scared because all of a sudden I realized the man I thought I married, he did threaten my financial security. And I thought, well, if he gets a little sideways on me, where does that leave me? So I just decided that I would do like some sort of a 10-year plan, figuring 1 or 2 things are going to happen in 10 years from now. It's a win-win either way, because now I'll be doing something that I enjoy. I'll be helping other people. But I hated to think about it because I'm a traditionalist and I do believe in trust and, having our, money. But I also thought, this guy gets squirrely on me or drops dead, where am I? And I don't want to like pick up the pieces at age 65, whatever. And so that's kind of the way I sort of looked at it, was like, it's a win-win either way. So I just changed my mindset and I figured, I'm on a new journey. This will be great. I'll be helping my community and helping myself. And so I literally turned it into a hobby. And when I made a lot of money the first year, it was like, oh, great. Now we're in the next tax bracket. So now what? And I almost left the marriage then. And because I had $20,000, and they say F you money, but being that I've been kind of a strategist, I sort of paced it out. And I was like, well, by the time I pay for divorce and my move and my this, that's not really enough money. And I'm not really making enough monthly. So, and then I thought, I'll just go buy real estate. And I really feel like that was a spiritual awakening. So I originally was looking at duplexes, and then I wound up buying this, what we call a hobby farm in Minnesota, 8 acres, had all these building sites. It was a cute little house that was built in 1899.
We're going to stop right there for a commercial break. When we come back, we are going to talk about how you got out of the farm, out of the marriage, landed back in Florida. And you guys have got to come back after the commercial break, because this is when the story gets really good. Thank you so much for listening to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast. We'll be right back. All right. So you bought the hobby farm, and then when did you leave Minnesota and settle back in Florida?
Yeah. So fast forward, I'm restoring the hobby farm. I'm literally sitting on a 5-gallon bucket of painting and taking phone calls and helping people like get their financial long-term care insurance and other stuff. And the guy that was helping me, because it wasn't the now ex-husband, because he was annoyed that I bought a property and he didn't have time to help me. So I literally hired somebody else out. And the guy was like, this is amazing. You're sitting on a bucket in between phone calls and fixing up a farm. Your husband must be so proud of you. And I'm like, little do you know, this is my way out. So at any rate, fast forward a couple of years later, I actually also got very, very sick every winter. I like to say I got the COVID before the COVID, because it was just like that terrible illness. So in 2018, then 2019, it happened again. And so since I have family and friends in Florida, again, by a grace of God, by like what we like to call manifesting, is that I had a friend that, as it turns out, in a retirement community, the house was for sale. It was her parents. She's like, stay here for a couple months. And she said, oh, P.S., by the way, you could buy these places for $25,000 to $50,000.
Wow.
So at the time, the last couple of years, literally every time I made an extra $1,000, when I tell you I ran to the bank, I am not even joking. Drove 17 miles, by the way, one way in the country to pay down that debt. So as it turned out, in the middle of a blizzard, the hobby farm's now worth $160,000. I pulled $60,000 out in equity, bought the condo free and clear, because now it's the end of the winter season. And I literally got like $20,000 off on this amazing turnkey ready, completely refurbished condo.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a plan. It was a 6-month. At the same time, I had some other people step in to realize that I was literally like stressed out.
So you went on vacation in Florida and you never came back to the farm.
That is exactly what happened.
So how did you get your stuff from the farm to Florida?
I basically came back in the summer. I had what I like to call my come to Jesus moment with the ex in a very calm way. We need to do X, Y, Z. Otherwise, no more. Mm-hmm. And he literally said, let me think about that. And so I was like, well, that's being real serious. I just literally dropped the bomb. At any rate, so slowly but surely, we did go to a counseling session, and the men literally identified in a couple of quick minutes that he would have been leaning on the narcissist side. And he said, unfortunately, ma'am, you are only a commodity to him. We see this happen a lot of times with successful business owners. Their business is their God. And do you have a plan to lead? And wow. I said,
you went to the counselor to save your marriage, and they're saying you're married to a narcissist. You need to get the heck out of Dodge.
And my faith-based usually is all about not divorce.
Keeping the marriage, yeah.
And they were like, we're worried for you. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first time I actually was like, whoa, they see something that I don't. I mean, I knew something was off. So in short, they said, don't even tell your best friends. Don't tell anyone, just make a plan. And so I did. And literally, since he worked off the farm at this time, the livestock was sold, and then he was working.
Oh, I think she froze for a minute, but you are listening to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant show. You froze for a second.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and
Just,
wrap up the story.
yeah. So just in short, I just slowly moved out. And then I literally, again, like what we talk about, I had to just, I literally went from the farm, the movers literally left. I drove 60 miles to sign paperwork. Then I drove another 60 miles to go to a business appointment and like ink the deal, as Grant Cardone says, and then headed my way down towards Florida. I could not afford to have a breakdown until I literally left. And so I was like, well, I can cry for the next 5 hours. But the great part about it was I had friends and family that supported me. And I made my way eventually to Florida. And I already had a make ready business. I had my little office all ready to go. And then Kaslamo, March, the day of my original hearing, was literally at 10 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, our country was shut down. And that was March 2020. But because I lived in rural America and I had to learn how to do all this video stuff, it was almost like a day. It was like a day in the office for me. I, by the grace of God, was able to pivot and just literally move everything online, where everybody else had to like close down their offices, go home, figure out how to like go online, where I'd already been doing that. Because by now I had clients in like 5 states. And so, and then I just went to work.
And you just put your head down. Well, I know you're a student of the 7 Pillars of Abundance. How has the 7 Pillars of Abundance helped you rebuild a life without burning out and stress?
So the whole self-care, but it's not like massages and like bubble baths,
Right.
It was about taking care of myself, first. And that is almost identical to what you teach. First thing I do when I get out of bed, again, a prayer routine. For me, it's scripture, then journaling about what I'm thinking about, and then getting outside, getting fresh air. Even in Minnesota, the basement, there was elliptical trainer, free weights, things like that I can go and work out. And then take care, eat, shower, get all dressed, and then go to work. And that's what I learned. We take care of ourselves first. As women, we learned in the Pat Allen work, women have to feel good first to do good. And so I had to I like to call it ease into my day. And that way I get to play. I get to go at the time, play with the cats, or now here I'm back in Florida, go on my bike rides, go out swimming, go to the beach, do all my spiritual regimen, then go to the beach, then come back, shower, then I'm ready to rock and roll. And I would do like most of my clients work. So I was like a 3 to 7, 2 to 7 kind of a work week. But that time, no personal phone calls, like it was all business. And I actually learned that from you, because when you worked at the kids acting studio, I remember you wouldn't take my phone calls even when I was with you. I remembered, like, you were in one room, I was in another. And remember, they had you like in some closet or something when you first got started. You were
They wouldn't give me an office. Did you visit me at work when I was working in the closet?
Yeah, I literally like you were in like some closet, and I was like in a lounge or something. Like I have a vague memory of that.
Well, I teach, if you're listening, if you haven't read the book, How to Make a 6-Figure Income Working Part-Time, definitely grab it. But when you're in focus mode, you are completely focused, and basically you're condensing a 40-hour work week into 10 to 25 hours, because you are pedal to the metal. Don't take any calls. Don't, even your best friend, if she calls or texts, don't respond. And you're just in a work flow. And I'm so glad you learned that. And that when you do that, you can have the mornings available for a self-care practice and exercise and fun and all that good stuff. So I'm so glad that you were able to make $1 million and still, maintain your health. But there was a point, though, you were telling me recently where you did almost hit burnout again and you started to get sick. So, and then you got out of burnout and got your health back. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah.
How you got into that
Yeah.
burnout
So,
phase?
so for full disclosure and correction, it is a net worth millionaire. So in other words, full disclosure, between my income, between my business evaluation, between my investments, my real estate. So I just want to, make sure, for that. But yeah, so what happened was I was being encouraged. And so when the whole thing happened in 2020, I did get a little alarmed because I saw, a lot of loved ones that they weren't able to be visited, things like that. So I immediately thought of, with my mom, if anything happened, I'm in this 1-bedroom apartment. And I figured between the divorce, fees. And at that time, my little hobby farm was actually rented out. They stopped paying. So I had to cover the rent because even though they were protected, the bank was like, yeah, but if you don't pay, you're not protected. So at any rate, I was like, oh, all this money that I'm making, I could afford a nicer home. Unbeknownst to me, and I figured, if the economy crashes, I want to be someplace nicer. Well, what we didn't realize is the opposite happened. And because interest rates plummeted and everybody was moving, around in the country, that my real estate actually went up. So I was able to get in before everything exploded in another place further north, a bigger place, a 3-bedroom. And then my place went up like 20 something $1,000 in like a year and a half. But then it was almost like you almost catch the fever, and that's where you got to be careful. The more people you hang around, the more wealth you accumulate, it does become like a game. And so I did get caught up in a little bit of the masculine energy.
It becomes a pissing contest, right? And you were hanging out with people who were bragging a lot about their financial abundance. And so what happened? You started working too hard and you stopped taking care of your health and you got sick. Like,
that's exactly right. Because it can slip pretty easily, because just like you said, I love helping people. So I really didn't see it as a job or a business, but there was some motivation. I did set some pretty ridiculous goals. And it's so funny because on my dream board, I set some ridiculous, 10x goals. Well, that's exactly what happened. In about 18 months, I did exactly that. I started to abandon, the steps that got me there, and started to go into the people pleaser, the work mode, to take the calls at 8:30 in the morning, to take 4 or 5 extra appointments. And I thought I could handle it, until that's exactly what happened. Like out of nowhere. As a matter of fact, I was at a Great American Speak Off contest that there was like 30,000 auditions. I was like in the top 150. I was around all these people. I was having a great time. Didn't even know that my immune system had plummeted by then. So needless to say, I got back from this cool event, and that's when I got like that same kind of sickness. And I was like, whoa, like what's going on? I'm not in a stressful marriage anymore. I'm not in like scarcity or,
not
like
freezing out. You're in Florida now, so it can't be.
Right. But what I identified was, I wasn't healthy. I wasn't taking good care of myself in the physical, even though I had a garden and all these other things. I had gained like 25 pounds and my immune system. And so that was the journey, being so sickly that sometimes God taps us on our shoulder. He does, what do we say? He does for us what we can't do for ourselves. And it was like enough. And so it was during those times of illness that I had to remember what I needed to do to get back there. And so it was like I'm going to get back to what I was doing. I'm fine now. I'm on good financial footing. I'd actually wound up moving up a little bit further north to the Tallahassee area, where again, some clients were up here, some friends were up here. I saw that it was a great bang for my buck real estate wise. And the Port St. Lucie area, Southeast Florida, just had exploded, traffic, all that. So I kind of wanted to get back to my country lifestyle. And I had bought some land in Okeechobee that I thought I was going to live on. And then that turned out to be, not what I'd hoped. But the great news is that property doubled. The Port St. Lucie house doubled. So once again, full disclosure, I was able to take advantage of a market that just skyrocketed. So like I said, I cashed in all my marbles.
Now you get the country lifestyle and you can
Yes.
We are going to cut to a quick commercial break. We are going to come back and you're going to want to hear this, guys. We're going to talk about, after going on such a journey, how has Kim's view of abundance changed? And we'll be right back after this short commercial break. Welcome back to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show. I'm your host, Rebecca Whitman, helping you go from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. Now that you have had a couple health crises, once when you were in Minnesota and the other one in Florida, what does abundance mean to you? Is it just financial or is it different? What is your definition of abundance?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because, again, now I'm with this other firm and I loved what the compliance officer said to me when I was so sickly, which, by the way, took me out of work for almost 2 months. So the good news was I had the financial foundation to carry me through that because that could have bankrupted me for sure. And it does. Most people, they say they're 90 days away from bankruptcy, or if they miss 3 paychecks, which is 6 weeks. So thankfully I had that. But the guy said, your wealth is your health. So during that downtime, when I had to recalibrate and rethink about, like, I need to get back to the basics. And, I not only did I read your book cover to cover, I think I bought like 20 copies and I actually still have 2 CDs that I just gave my significant other, which we'll talk about in a moment. But at any rate, I reread that book while I was sick.
Wow.
We don't remember that or know that because of the time frame that we had not had a chance to connect yet. But yeah. I read that, and that's when I remembered, like, yep, this reinforces everything that the both of us have learned, and now your book reinforced it, and it did talk about all the stuff that happened. So, like with you and your book described, when I went through all the nonsense, but now that I'm better, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Like, I proved it to myself. And so I thought, you know what? I have to trust God and trust my ability. And now I'm at a place that if I need to stick with what got me here, it's like back to the basics.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. And so I literally radically went back to what worked, that 3 to 7 or even 2 to 7, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is my times. Monday, I kind of gear up, do a little paperwork. Fridays, I almost never work on Fridays. If I do, it's like, I call it my wrap up, just a couple hours, never weekends. And so I did this, just went back to basics, just want to get out of bed.
Got to have boundaries around your time because your time is your number one resource. You can make money, spend it, make it again, but your time on this planet, we don't know how much of it we have left and we never get it back. And especially as business owners, there's always 10 extra things to do.
Always.
So we get to set boundaries around our time. And I love that Monday's kind of your organization day. You see clients Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in the afternoon. And then Friday's kind of like wrap up the loose ends, and then you take your weekend off. That is a great schedule, and it's so sustainable. So what are some common mistakes you see people making today when it comes to wealth, legacy, retirement, savings? What are the common mistakes that you see when you take on a new client that you have to fix?
Yeah. And I would say like a lot of my clients' demographics, like they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they don't have a money making problem. They have a money saving problem. And it's like you said, it's keeping up with the Joneses. It's the pissing contest. They don't mean it. It's the consumerism. I
Yes.
mean, I even got wrapped up into it, again, now I have the big fancy mansion is like I call it. I live, on a golf course, blah, blah, blah. But it was reasonable because I needed to keep it in check. So many people come to me between the two of them, they're making $250,000 a year. And they're 43 years old. And if they kept up the rate that they were, their money would literally run out at like age 72 to 75. And so not good. So the biggest mistake is the consumerism, the just allowing ourselves to like get sucked in,
Well, how do people stop? Because consumerism is something that I struggle with too. And I'm not buying like Gucci or Rolex, but I am like addicted to like health and wellness and beauty products. Thank God my show's growing and I get a lot of them free. So yay. That's one of the perks of having a show. But it's like you get a dopamine hit when you go on Amazon and 2 clicks later, and then that box shows up at your house and you forgot what you ordered and you're like, oh my God, it's like Christmas. Like, this is so exciting. I wonder what I got. Like, it's like a whole cycle of a dopamine addiction.
Yeah. So again, just on some of my earlier trainings, what you and I learned is, the one side, temporarily motivated to be permanently lazy, but the other one is really, it's like you said, it's about setting those boundaries,
with yourself. Yeah.
With yourself, because you're either going to, and then for me, my biggest thing is I watched my mom work until she was 85. Oof. 85, even though it was part-time.
Wow.
I'm not that motivated. So for me, all I can say is I am not working. I mean, I had a plan that I wanted to be able to literally work part-time and sell my business by like age 65 to 67. So I guess for me, and I still buy stuff, and I just give myself permission. And what we say is tell your money where to go, not wonder where it went. So you can give yourself permission by, okay, allow myself $65 a month for clothes, $100 a month. And so it really is about that. And for me, I'm kind of like a no fluff when I talk to my clients. It's like when they talk about, car payments, stuff like that. Like they say, I hope you liked your $2 million car. What does that mean? It means if you're in a car payment of $500 a month for 20 years, you could have had $2 million in the bank. So that's basically, we hope you like your $2 million car. And it's the same thing. I tell my share with my clients, even the gas station, you fill up your gas, you go in and get a snack. Starbucks, right? We called it $5. Now it's $7.
Yes.
And it's okay to have a little treat.
Right. Every now and again.
Yeah. Guess what? Again, as a financial advisor, hypothetically, let's just call it $100 a month over 20 years. Well, that's literally almost $150,000 to $200,000
on coffee.
On literally a $75, $100 extra a month on BS stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing is I practice what I preach. Like I just went on a 5-star vacation for 10 days and it was all about what kind of deals, what can we do? Like we even bought, as goofy as it sounds, because I am a coffee snob, we went to Walmart and bought like what? A $21 little coffee maker, because even at the 5-star resorts, we didn't like the coffee. So we went and bought Pete's Coffee and all this fancy stuff. And we had gourmet coffee all day long. My beloved bought a little bullet so that we can make our little protein shakes. So what? So we bought all that.
Let's talk about that because you recently got engaged and we talked about proximity is power and you are who you hang around. You spent a week with me and my husband and we're happily married, newlyweds. And And then you said, what happened after that trip? You said you were like so filled up with like love and high vibe and joy. And then you manifested a fiance.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened. What did you experience?
Well, so on this attachment theory, that I learned about, which is almost like another recovery, they talked about, well, we need as individuals in being insecure, not just in a romantic relationship, but having secure relationships.
Why don't you break it down? Why don't you break down the 3 types
so,
so people have
so secure is what we want. Those are healthy couples, healthy families, healthy friendships. Not that there's no drama, but there's healthy ways. If we have a problem or something that happens, hey, let's talk about it. Avoidant is as a result of, unfortunately, stems all the way back to our childhood. If there's some kind of drama, even as early as infancy, and there's inconsistent, like healthy love. And so our brain says danger. Actually, there's something about the way a brain is then formed as we get older that makes us avoid when things are good, because our brain is telling us disaster's coming. There's ethical avoidant people and unethical. Well, obviously the unethical ones might be like the borderline narcissist or the people that cheat or things like that are manipulative. Ethical means, again, with some therapies and recoveries, that they can fix their brain chemistry. Then there's anxious attached. Well, that's again another result of some chaos in family and friends.
Kim, I have to wrap this up in a couple minutes. So let's quickly talk about how people can stay in touch with you and what gift you have for the audience. I'm so sorry to cut it off, but the time got away from me and I do have another appointment starting now.
No problem at all. So obviously being remade secure is how I was able to come with you and observe what truly secure relationships were like. You guys flooded me with love. I actually did a live video, my first one ever, and shared about all the things that I wanted to manifest after being in Ohio. And so, within 2 weeks after me returning, I did meet the love of my life. Yes, we got engaged in a quicker matter, but really when you're our age, and so we're quick to engage and then moving slow as to getting to know each other. So for me, it's about sharing my story and how all the different aspects of our lives, really finance is the end, and what we need to do, like what you teach. So through your amazing teaching and through our friendship, I'm willing to, anybody can go on to Trinity Wealth Management /KIm Holland, or again, just get in touch with you and request an appointment. I think I sent you a link that they can do a self link. It's a $995 offer, meaning $995 is what I charge, up to $4,000 for like a 3-part consultation. I'm willing to do that, to give an assessment plus action steps.
Amazing.
$995 for no charge. Okay. And so that's really the best way to get a hold of me. I don't do social media because of the compliance issues with my financial regulatory stuff. And so, kaholland83@gmail.com is a great way to reach me. And I'd love to, help anyone out. And it's not just about money. It's about the whole, financial, wellness, both emotionally, relationally, spiritually, and then of course
all 7 pillars, right?
That's right.
You had such an amazing time hanging out with me and Ben in Cincinnati that you decided to come with me to Mexico to a luxury wellness retreat. So let's talk about that. What did we learn coming up in direct sales, coming up in business, about investing in yourself and coaching? And we're like peers. We've known each other for 30 years. So what made you want to come with me to a luxury wellness retreat in Mexico?
Right. Well, part of the pillars of wealth is about reinvesting in yourself. And
Yeah.
so every year, since 2015, so this is now literally 10 years, I made a commitment to cough up some pretty serious money, because again, that has to be enough of a pay attention to invest. And so for me, it's not about like a luxury retreat. It's really about how can I reinvest myself? How can I be surrounded with like-minded people? How can I learn, from other women, who have the whole wanting to be abundant, wanting to take care of themselves, right? And also wanting to do it with, like you said, what is it? Grace, glory, and ease.
Ease, grace, spiritual dignity.
There you go. And so my commitment was I might as well invest not only in our friendship, but again, even though we're BFFs, I'm still paying to go to this resort, rightfully so. Just like I couldn't give Ben financial advice at no charge, because there's certain things that still cost.
Right.
So for me, it was a no-brainer, because if I'm going to invest anyway, why wouldn't I now, given this opportunity, to take that set aside money and put that into, our experience? So for me, it's a twofer, because not only do I get to learn from you and other women, yes, I get to go to a beautiful destination, but it is about how can I glean and learn? Because as we've gone down our roads together and separately, right, there are things that, again, if they have what you want, you do what they do, and you get what they've got. So the fact that you and Ben are in a very healthy marriage, the fact that you've got, other income streams coming in as well, real estate endeavors as well, to me, that's like awesome. Now I get to level up and learn something new.
Fantastic. And what would you like to tell the audience about me that nobody but you knows?
That's a great question. I would say, let me just think about that for a second.
Yeah, I put you on the spot, because usually I don't have guests that have known me for
I'll say, this is what I'll say, is that we all have vulnerabilities. And we all are, of course, wanting to bring our best, to everyone. And the fact that there's vulnerabilities that you have shared with me, and that's sacred to me, because I know what you've been through and you know what I've been through. And we don't, the past is the past. It's like, Joel Osteen says, there's a rear view mirror and then a big front windshield for a reason. But that's the point, is that there's safety in when we have these really good friendships, that we can be vulnerable, because that helps us grow and we can encourage each other. Because we even had a little hiccup, meaning my romantic, that somebody kind of rejected me, and you were so cool about it. And we had some great private moments in your new adventure that you got to share with me. That is sacred between us. And so I would say that all of us is vulnerable and need someone safe to lift each other up. And I believe that when we go to these retreats, or we go to these self-improvement, whatever you want to say, you know what, you're going to meet people and you're going to bond with them in ways you didn't even know, and they're going to lift you up. And so for me, the investment is worth it, because there's things that are going to happen that we don't even know how we're going to be blessed by. And you have blessed me in so many ways that words don't describe. And it has been such fun, for us to reconnect, and now, have these separate tracks that we're doing different things, but yet we get to bounce off each other. So I would say the vulnerability part of it is probably a big surprise that most people we don't think about that, that there's a sacredness between.
Also, I mean, for all of you who listen to this show and think I've always had it all together, I have not. I remember I had a coaching call and they said, talk to the person closest to you and ask them to describe you in one word. And I don't know if you remember this, but you said traumatized. So I was in such a unhealthy, toxic relationship that I would share with you about all the emotional turmoil and pain that I was constantly going through. And you said the word traumatized. And that was kind of a wake-up call for me. I was like, wow, I better, if my closest friend describes me as traumatized and I'm trying to like reinvent myself and rebrand myself, I better make some serious life changes. And I eventually got out of that marriage, and that was a big red flag for me. I'm like, whoa, do you remember that when I said
well, no, but you had shared that with me like when we were in Ohio. And
Yeah.
isn't it, again, by us being vulnerable, that totally goes exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
With no filter, that was like the first thing that came to mind, not even knowing. I didn't mean to be mean. I wasn't trying to be critical. I was just like thinking about the moment in time you were in, not even understanding what was the outcome, like what were we shooting for, you know what I'm saying? And so little did we know this was some sort of an exercise for you, me, and again, our higher power, not my words, but his, right? God speaks to us through different things. And like you said, as a result of that, I'm just being vulnerable, not even realizing that it had such an impactful situation that helped you, take a second look or whatever, that you felt like you needed to do. And now you're right. Look at us, even in 2011, there are certain things that happened even back then were a little, that was supposed to be a happy time in your life. And now look at this, fast forward 14 years later, who would have even thought that we would be on a podcast together? You would be in a marriage that was super healthy, like the marriage that you always wanted, the relationship I always wanted, and a business, and having a good time and working where we want, when we want, how much we want, and literally limitless. And so,
and that's why I want anyone who's listening to this podcast, of course, I'd love for you to join me on the retreat, but if you can't, just know that you can reinvent yourself. You can just start over at any point in life. I mean, Kim was 51 when she launched her business. I got married for the second time when I was 50, and I'm in a happy marriage. I moved to my dream house at age 53. So anything can happen at any time if you are willing to be on a spiritual path and do the work and listen to shows like this and other shows and read the books. And I mean, it takes a lot of suffering to get this happy. It took a lot of suffering to get this happy, but I just want you to know that if we can do it, you can do it. We're not any different. We were just in enough pain that we were willing to seek solutions.
yeah.
So one last thing, if you could give everybody who feels overwhelmed by money and just uneasy about their finances one piece of advice to feel more in control over their finances, and just leave them with this one actionable item, what would that be?
Yeah, well, the action step really is about investing in yourself and finding people that have what you want, doing what they do. And I really feel like the main reason why I decided, to not just support you as my BFF, but the different things that you're doing on your retreat. Yes, money is going to be one of the 7 pillars, but there's still other areas of my life that I want to focus on, that I want to do better at. And so for me, I really feel like join us, because I really feel like that is going to be a pivotal moment, for anyone who might be sitting on the fence. Yes, you can watch a lot of videos and read a lot of books, but it's really in the rooms at these workshops, that's actually where the magic does happen, because that's when you start to cement these new relationships. You learn this information, you network with people, and then you get to go and apply. And oftentimes, although books are great, believe me, medical people go in the ER, they do the rotations for a reason.
Yes.
Well, they go to medical school for 8 years, but they're in literally from hospital to hospital. So I really feel like the retreat that you're putting together is an actionable item that people can take that step, get the information they need, glean from you and other people there, and then go back home and apply that. I mean, that's what I would say. For me, it's why I'm going. It's why I'm going.
Well, I will see you in Mexico. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful friend and a wonderful guest. And it's been so great to go on this journey with you called life. And for those of you who are listening again, what is your email, Kim?
So we'll do the easy one, KA Holland 83 at gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, this has been another wonderful episode of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show, where we teach you, as Kim so beautifully illustrated, that you can achieve success in life without the burnout. You can align your life in these 7 pillars of abundance, and it's about aligning, not the hustle and grind. And until we meet again, keep your vibe high and magnetize. Bye, everyone.